everyone. It's good to be here to speak about the strategic value of ISO in business transformation, right? So I can say as in Ghana, since this is more of a Ghanaian webinar, I know we also have other people on the call from different countries as well. But the thing I would like to put across is as a country, right, I don't think we are actually shy of these ISO standards because I know back in 2018, there was this, the BOG, Bank of Ghana came out with a directive for all the banks to be ISO certified. And as much as possible, when they were certified, all critical third-party vendors who were also working with these banks were also forced to also comply as well. So as I know, it's actually been trickled down savings and loans, and I know very soon people savings and loans, the first thing that pension as well would also be involved in these standards. As an organization, right, trying to as much as possible, every forward-looking organization need to have an ISO standard within the organization. It could be ISO 9001, it could be 27001, depending on the environment where an organization finds itself, right? So in essence, looking at as we navigate in an era of rapid technological advancement and with every organization trying to have a market share, then I believe ISO is a roadmap for every organization who wants to stay competitive in this market. So I will share my slide quickly and we'll take it from there. So just give me a second whilst I share my screen. Okay, thank you. So what we're looking at, it has to do with things around strategic value, the strategic value around ISO business transformation, right? So if I just captured this from their website, and I think this is very key. So what is a global standard for trusted goods and services? This is actually this is like a big cap, right? This is actually key, right? So for every organization, right, in essence, you need to meet compliance, right? Meeting compliance as meeting compliance and putting in things around ISO makes your life easy, because once you put in an ISO standard, in essence, you're actually competing globally, right? Because that's a standard that, let's say, if you move from Ghana, if you move to the Europe market, if you move to the Asian market, that's the same standard they're actually looking at. If you even look into the clauses of the standard, in essence, it's actually the same thing. So as an organization, to be able to have global standard for trusted goods and services, right, I've implemented. I know it's quite easy to have, like, let's say a 90,001 as the baseline. Then you can actually build upon to with any other standard. So you can actually put 27,001 integrated with 27,001, either 14,001 or 45,001. So I think I have on this call the key stakeholders. So I also have people who would deliver some information, some advantages on how to look at some of these management systems. So I think that around occupational health and safety, that talks about how, as an organization, people working with the environment should be safe, right? So this is actually key. So this is also very key to organizations, because in essence, when we look at the pandemic, right, nobody believed that people could work remotely, right? And nobody had any So for a lot of companies, nobody had a plan B when the pandemic hit. But as with time, people have put in these standards to actually provide resilience for their business process. If you look at the artificial intelligence, so currently everything is AI. Students being able to actually get information on the website from all those chat GPTs and all those designing interface. It's made I think artificial intelligence has made our lives easier than before. So we've also introduced artificial intelligence and ISO for artificial intelligence. So at least you would have, so if you are building an AI, if you're actually building an AI in Ghana, you can also conform to an international standard. So at least when you're in an AI anywhere in the market, it conforms to that international standard. So let's look at some of the key rules of how within right. So the first one has to do with enhancing operational efficiency, right? So that ISO standards help streamline processes, right? So actually help streamline processes, reduce waste, and improve quality. This is actually essential. So I've actually audited companies that have QMS that have actually implemented QMS management system, quality management system in their environment, where you can actually see that as an organization, they've actually standardized their processes, right? So if you look at things around, so if you go to an organization and look at you ask for things around their standard operating procedure, right? They've actually streamlined all those ones. If you look at things around their documentational processes, everything is actually aligned. If you look at things around how they do customer satisfaction, right? That's what QMS tends to achieve. Everything is actually in line. So if you're looking at ISO 9001, that's quality management system. It actually helps with enhancing operational efficiency, right? So on the second one has to do with ensuring compliance and risk management, right? So risk is actually key in every organization, right? So there's a standard called 31,000 that speaks on enterprise, actually speaks on enterprise risk management. That's more of an in the organization. So that actually also helps determine things around an organizational risk appetite. So that develops, you can actually have what the methodology that an organization is actually using to actually mitigate risk within their organization. Things around ensuring compliance, right? As I earlier mentioned, right? There are so things around 27. So if you go to so if you look at what BOG did, so there was this thing around regulatory compliance around the 27,001. 27,001 has to do with things around information security. So in information security, you're looking at things around confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So in essence, how are you securing your information assets within the organization? That is actually key. So compliance, right? Meeting compliance is actually key. It's key within an organization. And by actually implementing an ISO standard, right? It actually helps meet those requirements. The third point has to do with things around foster innovation and continuous improvement, right? So as an organization, when you don't continuously improve, then it becomes a problem, right? It actually becomes a problem, right? Because you would also have different competition in that same market who are actually revolving, right? Either using a different probably an AI platform or a different tool to actually remain competitive within their environment, right? So by including things around ISO standard, right, in your organization, by implementing those standards as an organization, right, you are able to foster innovation and continual improvement within the organization, right? Since I'm the more of a keynote speaker, I don't want to speak so much. We have professionals on the call who would drive this conversation around 9001. They'll drive conversation around 9001. Those will drive conversation around 45,001. Then we'll get to know, in essence, right? In essence, how these ISOs can actually transform the organization. Thank you.
Good. So I'm speaking on ISO 9001, elevating quality management system. I just want to provide the basis that when you talk about ISO 9001 or quality management system, you are just talking about customer. And we all know that if there's no customer, there's no need for any organization to exist, because an organization exists to make sure that the customer's need is met. So by that, I would say call them quality management. For the starters, I would just say that it's simply a systematic, strategic approach to overseeing an organization's processes to ensure that products and services offered by the organization consistently set to make sure that that product or service meets. So without a customer satisfaction, there's nothing like quality management. So you are there to make sure that the customer is happy and keep on coming back to you to do business with you. Okay, so quality management helps us to ensure that in an increasing competitive global marketplace, maintaining consistent quality standard is crucial for success and sustainability. And I believe Larry mentioned that if you have an ISO certification in Ghana, wherever you are, you can still do business. So you're very competitive. Offering consistent quality of services will make you beyond the borders of your country. So doing business in Ghana, having ISO certified, you are recognized in UK, US, and you can easily do business there or form strategic partnership with them so that your business can grow. So ISO 9001 basically is a quality management system standard that help business streamline their processes, enhance customer satisfaction, and drive improvement. So customer satisfaction is key when it comes to quality management system. So it helps businesses and organizations to be more efficient and improve customer satisfaction. What is the focus? Customer requirements and a mean to exceed their expectation. It also defines how organizations can meet the requirement of customers and other stakeholders. Other stakeholders here can also be applicable legal, regulatory requirements of the country you are working with. It also promotes idea of continual improvement. It requires you organization to set objectives and continually improve upon your processes. Next slide, please. So there are family of standards when the 9000 is mentioned. The 9001 basically is a requirement against which an organization can be certified. So that's where you have the 10 clauses that expect that every organization must meet at minimum to get certification. And the 9000 is just about basic definitions. 9004 provide guidelines for you to implement it to the fullest standard. And then 19,011 provides a guideline for internal and external audit training and quality management, so that anybody who wants to be an auditor need to be trained on the 19,011. Next standard, please. Next. Okay, so ISO 9001, it built on 7 key principles. And I'll spend a little time on that. So any organization that want to practice quality management, the first thing you must do is to make sure that organization is customer focused. The president of Walmart says that there's only one boss, and that boss is customer. And this customer can decide to sack everybody from the CEO to the last person organization. That means that the customer here is the king. So the organization must be customer focused and build a business to meet the customer's requirements. Every organization must provide leadership. And trained resources are provided for your staff. All resources that are needed for the full implementation of the management systems must be in place. Leaders must show commitment to ensure that the ISO 9001 meets its stated objective, and there's always continual improvement. Everything when it comes to quality management system. So people who work with the organization must be valued, must be trained, must be recognized. They must be trained to ensure that they understand the requirement of the 9001 and how non-compliance can affect the total objective of the business. There must be clear-cut job description for them to understand what they need to do. Every process has an input and an output. Whatever you put in defines what your output will be. So all the departments or units within an organization, their activities must be clearly defined, input and output, and whatever interactions that they do with other departments will be clearly managed so that there's monitoring assessment to ensure that there is always a continual improvement over every activity. Every organization must take a decision, and the decision that they make must be evidence-based. They must be data-driven, not on assumptions. So there must be clear-cut evidence based on which the organization can make a decision. Relationship management is key. As an organization, you work with other stakeholders, especially suppliers. You need to build a good relationship so that if that line can be timely supply of goods and services, and then you can minimize downtime and also have even a continual plan, even for them to be supply to you to be able to do what do you call it, credit supplies to you, so that they will not have any shortage of raw materials or whatever. You must also make sure that you manage your relationship with the regulatory authorities to make sure that everything is working well. Next slide, please. So what are some of the importance of ISO management? It empowers organizations to structure their operations, monitor performance, and ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. If you implement ISO 9001, company demonstrate commitment to quality, to transparency, and customer centricity. And then lastly, this systematic approach forces trust among stakeholders, boosts credibility, and open doors to new business opportunities. So if ISO is important, then next slide, please. Organizations who are here and who want to also implement it, these are some of the guidelines to follow. First, an organization top management need to decide to for ISO 9001 certification. If they do, the first thing they need to do is to set up the internal team or appoint a quality manager to lead the implementation process. Some organizations also appoint their internal leader and engage consultants. So the next consultants or have internal gap assessment. And this gap assessment will help you know your current status so far as the ISO 9001 requirement is then you also identify the areas of improvement. So you do your alignment with the standard to know what you need, what else you need to do. If you're able to do a nice gap assessment, you can continue with your documentation because you have identified the required document as prescribed by the standard, and then you also understand your operation, so you can have your procedures, work instructions, the records in place for operational controls. If you do this, you need to do training for your staff to be able to implement this to the latter. So provide training to employees on quality management system, requirement and your roles and responsibilities. Next, please. If you do this, the next thing to do is to do internal audits. By this, I presuppose that internal auditors have been trained already, or to do the internal audit for them. The essence of the internal audit to evaluate compliance and effectiveness of the quality management system of the organization, identify non-conformity and corrective actions to interval. It can be annual, it can be half yearly, depending on organizational set goals and objectives. So this performance review is to ensure to meet the standard. If all these are done, the company is ready to be certified to the international standard, that's the ISO 9001, by third-party auditors who are accredited to do so. If you are able to pass through this assessment or audit to show that you are compliant to the standard, you are given a certification upon completion, and this certification is valid for 3 years, after which you have to be recertified to the standard. Next, please. So I think Larry has mentioned some of the benefits of ISO certifications. So I'll just read you some of them. If you are ISO 9001 quality management systems certified, what the organization benefit is that there's a boost in customer retention and acquisition because you consistently meet your customers' requirements and there's customer loyalty. And therefore, there's a lot of trust in your business. And this will be a distinct advantage that you have in the marketplace. There's enhanced efficiency for sure. The errors are reduced, wastes are reduced, and then there's an operational efficiency. The supply chain streamline. There's strong relationship with your suppliers can significantly enhance efficiency and reduce costs because there's no delay in the supply activities. Competitive advantage. The certification also serves as a competitive differentiator, attracting potential customers and boosting brand reputation. 9000 certification takes you beyond borders. I think that has been mentioned beyond by Larry already. And the continual improvement. The concept of the PDCA, that's a plan, do, check, and act. It's a management tool which actually help organizations to actually plan their activities, carry out what they plan, do monitoring or check, and then improve. That's the act. But if this is done, there's always an improvement in your operations. And I'll just say that the organization that I have worked for the past 17 years, this ISO 9001 and other standards have actually helped us. My organization is a Ghanaian company, but we do business with international partners because of our ISO acquisitions. We have multinational contracts that we do currently because of this certification. So I will invite all other organizations on board here who are not certified to make a decision to do so. The next slide, please. So in a nutshell, I can say that embracing ISO 9001 is not just about obtaining a certificate. Rather, it is about embedding a culture of quality and excellence into an organization's DNA. As business navigates the complexity of today's market dynamics, ISO 9001 serves as a beacon, guiding them towards achieving operational excellence and driving sustainable growth. And let me add, in this era where Africa countries want to trade among themselves through AfTA, certified to ISO 9001, and people's confidence in your business will increase, and there will be turnaround in your business. Thank you very much.
Okay, so unlike the other speakers, unfortunately, I will share a documentary reference to some of the things that I'll be speaking to. So you can indulge me as I guess speaks to how ISO 27001 and how business can leverage on that to transform and also build a strong cybersecurity posture to manage the emerging risks around the threats that organizations face, especially with businesses that interface with the outside world. So just like the other speakers is talking about ISO, in fact, all the ISO standards are global standards that is being recognized by governments, being recognized by organizations and other players in the industry. So which means organizations aligning its processes to some of the ISO standard gives them a better opportunity to be globally recognized in respect to them being certified to any of the standard being 9001, being 27. So all the global credentials that comes with the other standard that earlier speakers have spoken about also is attached to the. So as I was saying, ISO 27001 has gone through a bit of transition. I mean, for the lifetime of the standard, as business environment changes, ISO also tries to update their standards and their requirements to reflect the current evolving risks and require that institutions that are certified to these standards also goes through the transition channels to get updated and improve on their environment to get compliant to the latest standards. So in Ghana, if you look at the Bank of Ghana directive that was issued for financial institutions, it made reference to 2701, 2013 version of the standard. And the directive was issued somewhere in 2018. And the Bank of Ghana also recognized that ISO is an evolving standard and changes based on business environment and the current trends current threats that businesses face. Issued a directive to instruct member banks to follow the transition path and get close to the 2022 standard version, which was issued somewhere in October 2022, I guess. Yeah. So now the standard, the ISMS standard is being recognized. I must say by July 31st, 2025, ISO will not recognize on any institution that is still certified against the 2013 version of standard. So institutions certified the 2013, you should know that by July 31st, ISO has issued a notice to all institutions to transition to the 2022 standard. So be that it may, I just want to go through some of the few. I think they've been just, I must say, it's not a major update to ISO requirements. ISO 20701 standard is actually broken down into two, where they have the management courses and they have the management courses. And aside that, they've also merged some of the controls and the state controls that the 2013 standard of the version had. You know, the 2013 standard of the version had in excess of 100 and over 114, I guess, controls, but the 2022 standard of the version has merged some of them, some of the requirements, and has also introduced some new requirements, about 11 new requirements to it. And now the total number of requirements that organizations are supposed to comply to has been, I would say, shrink and compacted into about 94, 94, 93 MSA controls. I must say all of these are done to help businesses to update their controls. Just as the earlier speaker said, ISO, I must say all the ISO standards, it's a continuous process. That's why the PDCA that he mentioned of is very key, where it's more like an iterative process, where businesses are supposed to assess the environment, look at the key risks in the environment, and go through the various requirements that they enshrined in their standards to improve the control that they have in the organization. So ISO 20701 also adapts it. And if you look at the one of the requirements in the 20701, it talks about continuous improvement, of which when there is an audit, the auditors requires that you maintain a continuous improvement log where you indicate to the auditors your commitment and the effort you are making to improve the controls that you have. Cybersecurity is not static, so the controls of yesterday might not be able to withstand the emerging threats that these technologies are bringing. Now, gone are the days where I mean, it was very difficult for organizations to participate in global markets. Technology has made it very easy. Now you have companies in remote parts of the world doing business with everybody, and it's very easy. These technology advancements introduce a lot of cyber-related threats. I mean, I don't want to go through the figures, but if you look at after COVID, research, says that research have proven that cyber-related attacks and incidents has increased by 600%. So, which means that organization needs to adapt to, needs to have a cybersecurity strategy to curb these emerging risks. And ISO 27001 presents organization with the best opportunity to improve and implement the right controls to mitigate against some of these emerging risks. To bring it into context in Ghana, I know by organizations adopting and certifying to the ISMS, there's a way of organization also demonstrating their commitment to meeting legal and regulatory requirements. I mean, all business work within a certain legal and regulatory frameworks. ISO recognize and give credence to local laws. So it means that if you are an organization that is certifying to ISO 27001, you should also be in the position to get compliance to the laws that govern the business that you are doing. So for banks, the Bank of Ghana Directive is one legal regulatory framework that you need to adapt to, and ISO also give credence to it. So you can say you are 20701 certified and you are not complying to local laws and regulations that govern the kind of business that you are doing. So I mentioned the Bank of Ghana Cybersecurity Directive. So whilst you are complying to, or you are getting certified, you are implementing the 27001. One, you are crossing the compliance check box for the Bank of Ghana Cybersecurity Directive that was issued in 2018. Two, you are also the Cybersecurity Act that was issued in 2020. That's at 1038. You know, if you look at the directive, the directive framework of the Cybersecurity Act, it designates certain critical or certain institutions per the nature of industry that your organization, it designates your IT infrastructure as a critical asset. And critical asset means that there are certain controls or there are certain information that when it gets leaked or when it gets compromised, it doesn't just have an effect on the organization, have an effect on the whole country security structure affected. So cybersecurity, the cybersecurity organization for which their technology infrastructure have been designated as critical assets. ISO 27001 one of the best frameworks to adapt to ensure that these critical assets that have been designated by the Act is actually protecting your organization information assets. And when we talk about protection, Larry spoke about it, it's very true, the principle, reliability of these information assets, confidentiality of these information assets, and integrity of these information assets is to be maintained. And just to add another legal regulatory framework, it has to do with the Data Protection Act. The Data Protection Act is very all-encompassing, where it prescribes how personal data is supposed to be managed. So irrespective of you being a data controller or being a data processor, no matter how your business is situated in the context of PII, personal identifiable information, we are supposed to maintain at least the 8 data subject rights of data that we collect in our organization. ISO 27001 is one of the standards when adapted will be able to help the organization to implement the right control frameworks to protect these PIs and also to guarantee the data subject rights, the 8 data subject rights that is enshrined in the Data Protection Act, which was issued 2012. Yes. There's also an act that whilst you are implementing and adapting to these controls, you are enhancing how data is being managed in the organization. The last 2 points I want to talk about is ISO 27001 gives your organization the best opportunity to align its security controls to protect against the cyber related incidents. If you look at some of the new requirements, I mean, it goes as far as threat intelligence, monitoring, and all these things, where it talks about data masking, or requirements that when you get be able to organization the organization information asset. So is ISO 27001 is a very good standard for which organizations need to align to. If you don't have any regulatory requirements that you need that requires that you're supposed to get certified to the 27001, like the banks or the financial institutions, as Larry spoke about. You can adapt to the 27001 as a best as a best standard for your best practice or for managing your cyber-related risks in your organization. And the last thing that I also want to talk about is also has to do with the 2701 gives you a structured way of managing your information security risks. You see, now proactive risk approach or method or strategy will tell you that organizations have to be all controls or all critical decisions of the organization have to be based on the risk that is evolving around the business. So ISO 27001 recognizes this and gives an organization, when adapted to, gives organization the right frameworks, I would say the right process or right way of managing the risk, and also properly highlighting the cyber-related risks around the business. And it's something that organizations are adapting to it. I've seen the benefit of it. So now all decisions that are being made in organization revolves around risks, and not just risks, around these data and information assets. Now we say the crisis asset of organization has moved from the monies that they keep in their banks and all those things to data, because data is now the new oil. Okay, if you look at the businesses that are doing well just around the world, you notice that Facebook, Google, and all those companies, Amazon, all these people, you look at what is the nature of business that they do. The nature of business that they do revolves around data, which means that data is now the new oil. So organization needs to prioritize the risks around their the data that they manage or they control within the organization. And ISO 27001 is a sure bet of implementing the right security controls to engineer businesses they have. I'll pause here and I'll open up if there's a question. If there's not, then thank you for the time.
Right. Okay, that's a beautiful one. I'm excited as well to be here. And I'm looking forward to engaging you all. So with much I do as well, I will crave your indulgence to share my screen. And then I will be speaking to you on business continuity related aspects of our conference. So basically, that is what I'll be doing. So I will be speaking on times of crisis. As my colleague all we are seeking to do is to ensure that we are able to integrate ISO standards across all that we do. And for me, I think that business continuity, if you ask me, actually is the overarching of all that so far they've spoken about. You talk of quality management, you talk of ISO 27001 and all those others. You only need a business to be aligned so that you can be able to have information security and cyber security and all that. You need business to be alive so that you can be able to have access to your quality management standards and all others. So basically, that is what I will be speaking to, and I will be craving your indulgence to take it off from there. So by way of the presentation, I'll be running you through some basic introductions. I mean, what business continuity is all about, why organizations implement it. We'll be discussing the key drivers of business continuity, and of course, we'll be talking about benefits, all right, of business continuity implementation. We'll delve into crisis management and how it interrelates, or how we integrate crisis management with business continuity, and then we take it up. I'll be sharing with you some practical experiences, as it may be, that has hit the world, Africa, and Ghana for that matter. And then as well, we'll be looking at some of the building blocks that ensures a strong business continuity in organizations. I'll be ending my section looking at some landmark situations and how we respond to crisis, and of course, some food for thought. that is what my presentation will be taking you through. So business continuity, as most of you might have come across before, when we talk of business continuity management, it's all about what organizations do, that holistic approach. All right, that holistic approach, that proactiveness that organizations will take in advance. All right, that is taking those proactive approaches in advance to identify potential threats that are likely to get those businesses out of what operation. So your activeness, your proactiveness to ensure that you are able to what identify these potential threats, and not just identify those threats, but also going beyond that and identify the impact that those threats could have on your business in an event that they crystallize, in an event that they go beyond just becoming a threat to becoming an incident. All right. So that is what business continuity management is all about. And so it provides that kind of framework. So that's what we need to understand. It provides us that kind of framework in building organizational resilience. And of course, that language or that word resilience is about the ability of the organization to be able to bounce back, respond immediately or within a shorter time period whenever there is a disruption. So that is what organizations are seeking to do when they're implementing business continuity. And so in all this, we're seeking to see what are some of the objectives. There are a lot of objectives why organizations tackling across potential trends, as I talked about, identify business impacts of those threats. I told you about that. So organizations want to business continuity to be able to identify what impact of the threats. And then also, they are also seeking to be able to build a robust and an effective response to the threat. All right. So they are not just seeking to implement business continuity, but organizations should implement it with the objective of what? Coming up with robust and effective responses in an event that those threats actually what crystallize. So you need to prepare in advance, as I said, being proactive, and then you build resilient organization. The accountants will call that going concern. The accountants are always seeking to ensure that their businesses do not collapse any moment from now, even in the heart of what challenges. So they want to see that resilience in the organization. And not only that, remember that organizations have what? Interested parties. All right, we have our stakeholders, we have our customers and all that. And so we introduce organizations will have to what? Introduce ISO 22301 business continuity so they are able to what? Protect key stakeholder reputation, brand value, and other related what? Activities. And so still on why BCM? Why BCM? So beyond just the objective that I told you about, apart from that, it also demonstrates good corporate governance. Right. So business continuity also demonstrates organizations what good corporate governance. Every now and then we're talking about corporate governance and how it is what impacting businesses today. And when we talk of corporate governance, it's all about what? Ensuring it's all about how the top level of organizations, i.e. the board, the executive management, the kind of decisions that they take. And so when we swerve these decisions into business continuity, then we are seeking to ensure that making provision for disasters, all right, that affect the normal running of the business is an integral aspect of what? Good corporate governance, or if you like, sound corporate governance. All right, so corporate governance, yes, it involves a lot of things, but we will delve it into business continuity, where we are seeking to see how, organizations, board of directors or board of trustees or their executive management members, the decisions that they take in the boardrooms towards ensuring what? Organizational resilience. And beyond that, they are also introducing business continuity, or they implement it to protect the sustainability of the business. All right, sustainable business practices. So beyond corporate governance, in today's world, we talk about sustainable business practices. And most of you might have come across the concept of ESG. Right. So being sustainable is about how we can, as it may be, enjoy what is currently there. What we as organizations today, how we can benefit from our businesses, from our environment, whilst we do not destroy the leftover for our offsprings who will come in the future. So we introduce in business continuity, so we are able to protect the sustainability of our business and to avoid falling into one of the following statistics. All right. In actual fact, research has proven that companies that are able to resume operations within 10 days are likely not to survive. And this is in accordance from what Strategic Research Institute. Organizations who have been largely hit in 10 days, they couldn't bounce back. chances are that the potential coming back into business is very low. And beyond that, 30% of all businesses have major part, and they go out of business within a year, and 70% fail within 5 years. These are all research proven. And so these are some of the realities on the ground. And beyond that, we in organizations, my colleague Eric just spoke about ISO 27001, where he spoke so extensively about what ensuring information security management, cyber security, and so forth and so on. And in this, we are interested in backups and ensuring that we have data, we have information, and so forth and so on. But also, research has also proved that 77% of backups are usable when they need it. So, I mean, as my colleagues mentioned, I mean, in auditing, oftentimes we get into organizations, you ask how they're doing their backups, and they will rant. They will tell you everything. Oh, we do backups. But still, let's look at some of the key drivers. So what is it that is driving business continuity in today's world, in a very fast changing pace of business around the globe? Indeed, I mean, ISO standards couldn't have come at any moment. It's been there for all these years. Trust me, organizations are fast catching with reality today, especially in Africa, and more importantly, even in Ghana. And so for me, this conference could not have come at any better time other than now for us to share these best perspectives. So there are a lot of things that is driving business continuity around the globe. One has to do with increased supply chain interdependencies. And of course, what is popularly referred to in the IT balance as what single point of what failure. Every now and then, organizations are reliant on others. We work with third parties, we work with suppliers, we work with what we call vendors. In mutual parties or literature, they are referred to as key service providers, dependent on the service level agreement your organization have signed with these parties. You understand? And so when you are dependent on only one party, when you are dependent on only one organization who provides you with, say, internet connectivity, what happens when that organization is hard hit? Like, you understand? So this is happening. Supply chain interdependencies. Of course, I think during the introductory remarks, I overheard a colleague or a friend who mentioned that he was, I think he was in one of the production or manufacturing companies right here in Ghana and all that. So you realize that every now and then you are getting requests, you are getting orders, and you are supposed to just deliver in time, just in time deliveries. This is your process. These are processes, or these are processes that started some time back, very far away, somewhere in the Japanese culture, in the Chinese culture, where they ensure that they don't just produce goods, and they don't produce goods, or they don't manufacture goods to keep them. All right, but they manufacture goods as and when requests come for them, as and when people are making requests for them. So yes, just in time delivery processes. And so these are all things that are driving business continuity. Why? Because you are interested in your recovery time. You are interested in understanding how long it might take you to deliver when you are disrupted as a result of any incident. And then, of course, increased dependencies on IT. Let's ask ourselves, all of us on the call, how many of us find ourselves in an organization today that is not dependent, I mean, whose one process or the other isn't dependent on an IT technology, on technology, on one software or the other, on one application or the other. All right, cutting across from what? I mean, on-prem, I mean, live premises, server rooms, data centers, to cloud services. So almost every organization today is dependent on one technology or the other. And this calls for what? Business continuity. Beyond all these, we also have trends. So the trends that are also driving business continuity, yes, I earlier talked about corporate governance. No organizations want to be seen left behind. Every organization, board of directors want to be seen as taking the right applicable decisions. Then, of course, best practices. Indeed, every organization wants to be aligned. When my senior colleague Larry Ashong, gave his introductory remarks, he mentioned about the importance of ISO standards worldwide. And so ISO 22301 in Ghana is ISO 22301 in China, in Canada, in Hong Kong. You can mention it wherever it is. And the same standards, the same way an auditor will probe you in Ghana. It's the same way I will probe another company in Hong Kong or wherever. It's the same thing. So that's one best reason why ISO standards are good, and the reason why organizations are taking. So we need to allow best practices such as the 22 principles of business continuity and organizational resilience. And indeed, insurance cost. If you get to know how much your organization pays by way of insurance, whenever, especially, disruptions occurs and so forth and so on, you will come to understand the need for the reason for business continuity to be what? Implemented. Then, of course, we talk about protecting enterprise value. That is why stakeholders quite off. Service, knowledge, reputation, brand, and all those things comes in. Brand value is very important. When my colleague Raymond spoke about quality management systems, he talked about reputational damage. And indeed, in business continuity, we have interest in it, because when your business is disrupted, I just gave you some statistics. After 10 days, when you are not able to come back, when you go beyond what we refer to as your maximum tolerable period of disruption, that's the timelines within which you are unable to come back after you've made a promise to your customers that whenever I am disrupted, trust me, within 10 days, I should bounce back. But in your 11th and 12th and 15th day, you are still struggling. Of course, you will begin to suffer reputational damages. You cannot be trusted. Okay. So we implement business continuity because of wide array of benefits. Wide array of benefits, including but not limited to identifying and managing what current and future threats. Every now and then, organizations are making plans. They are taking real-time plans now. They are seeking to understand what is happening within their environment. All right. Once again, the earlier speakers mentioned about ERM, enterprise risk management. Why are organizations ensuring that they need to implement enterprise risk management today? Because every now and then, new threat is coming up. New risk events keeps what? Emerging. One of my colleagues talks about artificial intelligence, and indeed, it is the key drivers of the most threats in the world today. Every now and then, you and I on the call, I know most of us, as I'm speaking, some of us are on our phones, we are chatting, we are getting some information somewhere, we are fetching some data somewhere. These are all driven by artificial intelligence. But as much as possible, in as much as that it presents us with some benefit, it also comes with some threats. And so we need to be able to, one of the benefits when we implement business continuity is to identify and manage current and then what? Future threats. And beyond that, we need to also take proactive approach to minimize the impact of incidents. That is one of the benefits when you implement business continuity. Because why do we say we take proactive approach? Simply because, look, you have drafted policies, you have drafted plans, you have come up with your strategies, you have tested the plans. All right, we've gotten people to get accustomed by embedding business continuity, by ensuring that it has become a culture in your organization. So everyone gets to know the do's and the don'ts. When that happens, you are able to protect what? People's life and safety. A colleague of mine will be coming after me to talk about ISO 5000, safety, and approach. And then also keep critical functions up and running during crisis. One of the key reasons why we implement business continuity is because of their critical functions, their critical processes. In other literature, you come across them as what? Mission critical processes. And when they say mission critical processes, in actual fact, other books also refer to them as what? Showstoppers. In other books, you will come across them as showstoppers. And when they say this process or this application or this software, this IT, whatever it is a showstopper, what it means is that in an event that there's a disruption to that particular process, the organization will grind to a halt. Your reputation will be mad. Your customers will move on. Customers do not have time for anyone today. Trust me. Once you get to ground zero, they look for alternatives. So you better prepare yourself. So we ensure that we implement business continuity to ensure that our critical function processes are up and running 24/7. And even if there's a disruption, we have plans, we have strategies to ensure that we are able to immediately revolve around these challenges whenever it happens. Then the next one is minimize downtime during incidents. Of course, because organizations and because ISO itself is aware that, look, yes, you can implement all the best practices across the globe, but indeed, natural events will still happen. So there will be disruption. You can have all the best of technology, you can have all the best of IT, still there will be disruption. So having in mind that disruptions will occur, the reason we implement business continuity is that it enhances and minimizing the downtime So, of course, you are aware that the disruptions will come. It's not just about the disruptions coming, but how you respond to the disruptions as and when they come. So you minimize it. That's one of the benefits. Closely linked to business continuity is crisis management. So you can rarely hear business continuity without hearing crisis management coming into the picture. All right. And of course, crisis management, as you hear the word crisis, that is when the situation is gone beyond just an ordinary incident, it's gone beyond just an event, it's gone beyond a disruption. So it is now at a level where perhaps it is taking a whole attention. It can be, it is the incident is gone beyond just the organizational level. Perhaps it is now taking the whole metropolitan attention or the whole region or maybe the whole country. Then it tells you that, hey, this issue now the organization control and is very important. Successful crisis management requires a sense of urgency. Yes. And I will show you practical examples. In crisis management, you require some level of urgency. You need to take bold decisions. Some of the decisions during crisis may not be palatable, but yet you still have to. And beyond that, you have to be creative in your thinking. Yes. Crisis communication, crisis aspects. People will tell you, oh, I'm a communicator, and every now and then, you hear challenges or crises in one organization or the other, or a government ministry or an agency, and you come to hear their PR people speak, and hey, then you wonder, because you sometimes just say, is that the person spoken? Because the more they speak, they're worsening the situation. And I'll give you some examples of that. So you have to be creative in your thinking, commitment and motivation. Crisis managers should be motivated, self-motivated. They're aware that changes will come, disruption will come, and be composed, be motivated. All right. So that you are able to create a value. All right. So creating a viable crisis management plan. So in effect, for us to be able to handle crisis situation effectively, you must have a viable and a crisis management plan in place. You must prepare your employees in advance. Let them know that, look, challenges could happen, disruptions could come in the organization, and those disruptions could go beyond just incident, it could go beyond events, and it becomes a crisis situation. When it happens, these are the way you're supposed to behave. Prepare them, cite them, embed it in them. Turn weaknesses into strengths during crisis, and it is all embedded in how creative you are in your thinking. So all the challenges that are coming, all the weaknesses that are coming, you turn them to become opportunities and strengths. And then, of course, it powers on your performance. Okay. So let's look at some business continuity events. Of course, these are some of the things I've talked about. I wouldn't waste much time to talk about this literature. Or talk of an incident, oftentimes there are situations that might or could lead to a disruption. All right. So incidents are sometimes just one occurrence, if you take it that way. If you put it in that manner, it's just an occurrence, if you like. And sometimes, if it's not properly tackled, then it becomes a crisis. And when we refer to something as an emergency, in the world of business continuity, there are incidents, of course, that goes beyond just, that could lead to death situations, but that could lead to serious injuries. Then that becomes emergency situations. All right. And sometimes they could lead to organizations shutting down, and they require immediate response. So just as the language suggests, it's an emergency. Crisis management. So in business continuity, there should be asking what is it that we need to put in place. In fact, trust me, any of these areas, if I have to speak on it, it's a whole exercise talking about business impact assessment and so forth and so on. I think during the first I recall he talked about doing gap assessment, gap analysis, trying to understand where you are as an organization now and where you are seeking to go. Right. And so on the basis of that, you have to do some assessment. Of course, that assessment you will fit into what in business continuity refer to as the business impact assessment. And here, what are we seeking to do? So we are seeking basically to understand the level of organizations, their financial and non-financial resources, the recovery time objectives, the recovery point objectives. We are seeking to understand the critical function processes. Remember, I told you about it earlier, the showstoppers. So we want to identify the critical function processes, the critical function departments and units. We want to understand the critical applications and softwares. We want to understand. So what you do business impact is a whole pack. And beyond that, you also identify the people, the critical function staff, the people and their dependencies. So the primary and the secondary. So in the absence of one process, what other process fits in? In the absence of Raymond, is Abdul there to speak on quality management? Or in the absence of Abdul, is somebody there to speak on business continuity? That is what we do when we do business impact assessment. So we try to identify all these kind of dependencies, key processes, and their recovery time objectives. Natural MPPs. So what do business impact? We are seeking to identify what recovery time objective for each of the critical processes. So for each process, we ask the process owner, all right, the critical process owner, we ask them what will be the impact of this process in an event of a disruption, and we make this and legal perspectives. Will there be some fines? Will there be some penalties? And then we're also looking at it from the perspective of customers. If that process is a customer-facing activity, what would be the impact if that process is unavailable? What will your customers say? All right. So all these are some of the things we do when we perform business impact. But from there, we do risk assessment. So organizations, after performing or after conducting business impact, they conduct risk assessment as well. The essence of the risk assessment is to understand all the possible risks, from malicious activities to natural disasters to technical disasters, pandemic issues, amongst others. Then you have to develop your recovery strategies. So you follow various strategies for each of these scenarios, or each of these risks identified by looking out for alternatives. So when you are coming out with a strategy, you are seeking to identify what alternatives. What are the alternatives in an event that this process is available? What next do I do? From the recovery strategies, you come up with your business continuity plans. And depending on which organization you are operating, or depending on the industry you are operating, we have several business continuity plans. The most commonest among them is the emergency response, crisis management. Of course, the disaster recoveries, which is geared towards your IT infrastructure. Emergency is meant for everything, right? Then when it comes to business continuity and crisis response, ensuring that whenever there's a disruption, keeping you are keeping your processes still running at the minimal predefined time levels. And of course, for you to succeed in all these things that I've talked about, there must be that embedding. I earlier talked about embedding business continuity. That's where training and awareness comes in. You must train your people. The organization must train its staff. Identify your key stakeholders and train them, your interested parties. In fact, your customers, identify all the key, those who matter. Let them know what it is. And there are several trainings we do, from tabletop exercises, from full, recovery tests, from full or multi-party disaster recovery exercises that we perform. You can perform exercises or testing on your IT infrastructure. You can do favor check from your production to your disaster recovery center. What will happen if there's a disaster or disruption? You can do all these checks. All right. Then, of course, now I'm going to show you some landmark cases in business continuity. Most of them, I believe you are familiar with them, so I'll be running so fast. All right. The most popular one is the CrowdStrike incident. You recall quite recently, sometime in July 19th, we had an incident caused by widespread disruption to computer equipment across the globe. This led to disruption in airlines. All right, you can check on that. There were a lot of airlines who could not fly simply because of a patch management system. All right. And in actual fact, what we see here as patch, the basic IT language is all about an update. An update they needed to do. Right. And that could have led to a lot of organizations and industries who were connected to Microsoft systems. They had that's how it happened. And so basically what we're trying to say is that the implications could be more than you ever envisaged. When a disruption occurs, you might think that, look, it's just your organization, but the implications go beyond your organization. And so this incident underscored the critical need for robust business continuity, reputational and brand management. this single act of the CrowdStrike incident that occurred on the 9th of July. So let's ask questions. What were the plans of the organization? What were their business strategy? How long did they take to bounce back? Did it reach their objective? Were customers happy? Did it meet our maximum tolerable period of disruption? The failure of that incident is huge. All right. And then, of course, beyond the CrowdStrike, you remember sometime in 2019, late 2019, 2020, we woke up, on the 11th of March, when the World Health Organization told us and the rest of the world that they have declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. It's a pandemic. And once it's declared as a pandemic, it means that it becomes global, it becomes a major issue. And we had some mind-boggling statistics. At August 16, 2022, we had over 587 million people by this one. Beyond that, we had over 6 million reported deaths. We had 6 million reported deaths. As for businesses that were shut down, that had to flow, that were to work from home and all that, they become uncountable. And so what we are saying here is that organizations who had business continuity plans in advance, they were able to survive this. So there were a lot of organizations who started ensure that some of their critical function staff could work from home. Yes, so now when you hear this concept of work from home, it had always been there, but it became more pronounced during COVID. Okay, so if you have no business continuity plans in place, then what it means is that the lockdowns had impact on you. It affected, global supply chain. A lot of employees were laid off, and so forth and so on. Beyond this example, you might have heard about this incident also. Those of us who like current affairs and we read a lot, you might have come across what we refer to as the Silicon Valley Bank, an incident. These are just real life situations, right? None of them is made up. And these are all situations, as recent as possible. This is just this year, early this year. All right. This was on 8th of March. And this is what I will refer to as the law of unintended consequence. And I will make reference to crisis management I told you earlier. Law of unintended consequences. Communicating. You seek to say to people, and what you knew you were communicating versus what the people understood you or saying. Please. So once again, let's take note of that. All right. When it comes to business continuity and crisis managers and crisis communication, especially the crisis communicators on the block, please, be wary of this. All right. Be wary of this and know how you communicate. Know when, know how, and why companies communicate about crisis. So basically, when you understand when, how, and why you communicate, the buying of the customers, the buying of your stakeholders, we do. But when you come the other way around, they will not like the impact in the United States. So on March 8th, 2024, the year script, but this year, the bank issued a press release. So listen, this was the real life situation. This was what happened. So the bank issued a press release. Fast. Banks will want to, they want to go to the open market, to float shares so that they can raise more capital. But the way the communication went, the opposite was true. So the announcement had the opposite effect. And so there was a run on the bank. And immediately, an act that was meant to show up the balance, an act that was meant to show up the balance sheet of this institution ended up actually being the opposite. And so there was a run on the bank, and then customers had go in and then they wanted to ensure that look, they take all their deposits and so forth and so on. All right. So because the bank failed to explain its actions to customers who were already wary of the closure of Silvergate. And remember, prior to this incident, there was another bank, Silvergate Bank, just a few days earlier. And so it had It impact. And as a result, it affected the bank. These are real life scenarios. And of course, so let's leave the world. Now let's come down to Africa. You remember sometime in May 13th, 2024, we woke up to what? Another what? Undersea cables cut in Africa. That led to what? Internet disruptions. This incident occurred, and I mean, in a host of countries. Of course, Ghana was not an exception. Nigeria was not an exception. Benin, Burkina, in so many countries, a host of countries. And then, some parts of Europe. These are real life scenarios, and they had significant impact on businesses. A lot of businesses in Ghana had to switch. All right, they had to switch to plan B in order to have internet access. And so these are the real cases. So it emerged that, there was a subsea cable cut. So the question is not about disruptions. Why am I giving you all these scenarios? Because I earlier told you that look, whether yes or true, disruptions will occur. No matter the level of what disruption, no matter the level of robustness or plans you have in your business, it will happen. But it's not about the incidents occurring, but it's about how prepared you are. How prepared you are as an institution. Then we talk about Kenya. There was an incident also in Kenya. All right. The Chase Bank, most of you might have come across this incident also. Of course, the case of the Chase Bank placed under receivership. This is a case that was closely linked to the incident in the Silicon Valley Bank incident. So sometime in April 2016, there was false rumor. And this is also what we need to take into consideration. In today's fast-paced, changing environment, a lot of organizations. So another thing I share here, of course, as a result of experiences I've seen in organizations, during some performance of an audit or something. There are organizations who will tell you that, oh, this social media is me, I'm not interested. We don't want to be on social media because the people who are there, look, I am telling you, all of us on the call today, whether you like it or not, social media has come to stay, and we need to actually enhance how we can actually take the opportunities and the benefits out of it. All right, because a single comment on social media can have an impact on your business, and the impact could be a positive or a negative one, and that was the case of Chase Bank. So someone made a case, someone made a fraud allegation. All right, on X, former Twitter, yes. All right, on Chase Bank, and this led to panic withdrawals by customers. Just because of a fraud, an alleged fraud case, which was started against the bank. It led to what? Run on the bank as well. So people were running to what? Withdraw their monies and so forth and so on. And eventually it led the country's regulators to be under receivership. Okay. We come down to Ghana. So from Africa, now we are getting back home. And I believe for this case, yes, this was sometime in last year. We woke up in one morning to hear that there was a spillage. Right, there was a bank spillage, between bank spillage, Akosombo Bank and Pong. Remember that incident? This incident led to thousands of people, who were made homeless. Speak today. Once again, that is where the issue of crisis comes in. And I believe most of you, Ghanaians, if you are following the media in recent times, we hear banter between the MP and the government and so on and so on. It's all about how we manage crisis. So let's take note of that. So it resulted in flooding of several communities across the Volta and the OT regions. All right. So all these things had what? Impact. And there were, of course, it had impact. There were casualties. People were homeless, people's farms. So the question is, did the organization, did Akosombo Dam, did they have a business continuity plan? Did they have a crisis management plan? Have they tested their business continuity plan? That is the questions we should be asking. And of course, with the banking industry, once again, Ghana, you might have heard of this incident. Bank of Ghana folks, forest banks. This is also a real life incident. It was in June 29, 2023. All right, where two banks, their forex license was what? Revoked. It's a result of various, infractions. Once again, when this came into the news, it had an impact. That is the reality. But it's about how these banks respond to what? The incident, or how they respond to what? The disruptions. It can make or make you. You understand? So it resulted in loss of business for the banks, and their customers have to look out for other alternatives. So the question today we should be, Have they not been able to convince all their customers to come back as a result of this single act? These are realities on the ground. And of course, sometime also in the year 2020, there was an incident, fire outbreak on one of the major, banks in the country, GCB Bank PLC. All right. Yes. So there was a fire outbreak on one of their head office buildings. How was it responded to? That is the question. So the ability of this institution to immediately what? Put in their business continuity measures, ensuring that all critical function departments were placed in various, they were placed at various alternative sites, which were already made in advance. And people were already being taken there at regular intervals and they were trained, they were tested. So people were aware, people knew how to go about things. And so there was a seamless transition. And the management of the organization came out with immediate communication. Okay, we have our business continuity plan. We have already ensured that all our critical function processes have been so that if assurance do that you go to all our branches as normal and you will be served. And indeed, there was business as usual, as if nothing occurred. That is how responsive organizations react. So let's look at response. Clearly, when there's a business disruption, there are two responses. When it comes to crisis, how the organization responds can make the organization, which I just told you, right? Can make the organization. So basically, what you are seeing on top here is organizations that are effective when it comes to their crisis management. So they get the trust of what their customers and then all that. So they are able to what surge. But when those organizations who are not able to what respond to their crisis effective, what happens is that they collapse. So that is why you are seeing this. Nose diving. All right. So basically, some food for thought. All right. Some food for thought for you and I all. What lessons have been learned in terms of crisis response? We all need to study for what management in situations like all these that schedule. What dependency risks are introduced as a result of the digital supply chain? All right. So what dependency risks have we found? Then where does insurance fit in? So I told you about insurance as well. And so we need to ask also, so who bears the cost of all these disasters? Also, we should just look at them as mere, we can just look at them as just, how do you call it, fourth measure. Nature. So we should take it as such. And so we are asking the question, so how does this affect the continuous availability of what? Critical IT services, and so forth and so on. So making reflection. So at this point, I am asking all of us to reflect. We should all be reflecting on what? Why the need for us to implement all these management systems from 2001, from 20,000, and several others, and how they all impact what on our business. So my last slide is on some key recommendations. Some of them my colleagues have mentioned to you already. And so organizations are encouraged not just to implement business continuity and other related standards, but they need to what? Maintain and integrate. So you implement, you maintain and integrate by embedding all these standards and all the practices therein. Okay, such as what? ISO 22301, 22361, that is on what? Crisis management, 27001 on information security management, 20,000, that is IT service management, 9,001 quality management, so forth and so on. And of course, you must be interested in risk management. That is the overall thing. Because trust me, all these management systems we've talked about, they are all embedded and they are all about what? Risks. And so you can as well consider taking into consideration enterprise risk management in accordance with ISO 31000 or other standards, just to ensure that you have effective crisis management structure, to ensure that you intensify your information security awareness, ensure that you are maintaining up-to-date business plans, ensure regular testing. Because look, organizations can develop all the plans in the world, but if you don't test them, they are just mere documents. Right, so you have to test them so you are able to know how effective they are. And then regularly create simulations, run them All right, so we will create some simulations and rehearse, and then so that your people, your organizations, everyone will get to understand and align to what all these best practices. And so, in a nutshell, that is all that I've been saying. I've spoken on business continuity and all that it does around the world and so forth and so on. And so that is where I'll bring my presentation to an end. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be standing by for further questions.
So today I'm looking forward to sharing insights on how ISO 20001 can enhance your IT service management and transform your IT department into a strategic asset for your business. So without much ado, I'm going to share my presentation. Okay, so in today's rapidly evolving digital landscape, how confident are we that our IT services are truly delivering maximum value to our business and meeting the ever-increasing expectations of our customers? So if you have doubt about whether your IT service is actually meeting the demands of the business, what if I told you there's a way to transform your IT department from a cost center into a strategic asset that drives business growth and customer satisfaction? So I'll begin my presentation. This is going to be my outline. A lot has been said, so I'm going to be very straightforward and brief. Then we'll launch into it. So we've been given the assignment of, okay, how do we enhance IT service management? So I'd like to start with what is IT service management? So IT service management is a framework of best practices and processes for delivering and managing IT services in an organization. It is designed to help organizations to improve their IT capabilities and ensure that IT services are delivered in a repeatable manner. So my first point talks to the fact that this is also top-down, a business-driven approach to the management of IT that specifically addresses the strategic business value generated by IT organization and the need to deliver high-quality IT services. So if I'm to basically use analogy to visualize it, so think of the business as a restaurant owner, IT is the kitchen, and then IT services are the meals. So in a top-down business-driven approach, restaurant owner, in this case the business, decides on the type of cuisine and dining experience that they want to offer. So the vision is communicated to the head chef, in this case IT leadership. The kitchen, that is the IT department, then organizes itself to deliver this vision, choosing the right ingredients, equipment, and cooking methods. So the focus is on creating dishes, that is IT services, that not only taste good, but also contribute to the restaurant's reputation and profitability. So that's basically what IT service management is. So it's something that we focus on people, processes, and technology to deliver the objectives of the business. So what is ISO 20001? So this standard is published by the International Standards Organization initially in 2005 and subsequently updated in 2011 and also in 2018. So ISO 20001 is a type A management system standard that sets out minimum requirements for an organization to establish, implement, and maintain and continually improve a service management system. So it's a worldwide standard that describes the implementation of an integrated process approach for delivery of IT services. So the important thing I want to highlight here is that it aligns IT service with business needs. And it's actually divided into 3 distinct parts. So if you are wondering why we have the -1 in 20,000, they are actually parts of the 20,000. So the part one is basically the requirements for IT service management to gain certification. So the 20,001 standard, if you read the standard, that's actually what spells out the minimum requirements to audit and organization for effective IT service management. So if you want to get certified, you need to have the part one of the standard. So there's actually part two, which is also the code of practice for service management. And this provides guidance for internal auditors and assist service providers planning service improvement or preparing for audits against ISO 20000 and ISO 20000. And then part three is basically tackles the scope and applicability. So it provides advice on scoping for service management, planning improvements, scope statement for certification audits, suggestions and applicability, including adding communications or even wider technology-enabled services. So a snapshot, this is what the ISO 20001 standard is all about. So there are about 10 clauses. So starting from the beyond the clause one, which is the context of the organization, and it looks at the key items about clause 3, planning, clause 4, support of the, clause 5, support of customers. Sorry, I'm sorry. Actually, clause 4 to 5, it's applicable to all the standards. But if you're looking at ISO 20001, the meat of the service management system is actually in clause 8, which spells out the so we are looking at it would lead us to basically enhance IT service management because it prescribes some kind of requirements, and when you follow, you actually normally will improve your service management. So if you look at the lower right corner, bottom right corner of the window, you see that there's a section for improvement. So you have continual improvement, which is very key if we want to enhance service management activities. So let's look at why it's important. Why ISO 20000 is important in enhancing IT service management. So I already spoken about the fact that it's an international standard, and I think other speakers have already spoken about this. So this is actually the first international standard for IT service management. So we have other frameworks like ITIL, which basically provide the how. So ISO 20000 really tells us the what to do, but the frameworks like ITIL, which is the IT structure library, actually gives us the how, the nitty-gritties of how to do some of these things. So first key point I've put there because I'm a bit biased. And actually, when you're in IT, sometimes you often regarded as a support department. So in order to remove yourselves from being regarded as a support department to actually being a business partner in delivering the business goals, 20000 will actually help you to do that, to align your IT services with the business strategy and objectives and ensure that IT is actually supporting and driving the business goals, because it's only when this is being done that the business actually sees the value that the IT department actually offers to the organization. Okay, so I'll speak about the ensuring service quality, compliance, and efficiency. So we are looking at quality assurance. I mean, if we are following ISO 20001, we can ensure that we are delivering high quality services, not just any kind of service, high quality service that meets customer needs and expectations. And then how do we improve? We improve by focusing on continuous improvement and customer satisfaction. Because if you even take a look at an iPhone, okay, there's been several iterations of iPhone. Why has there been several iterations? Because they are continuously trying to improve the product to meet the customer need and to ensure customer satisfaction. So this is very key in enhancing the service management. So once you want to ensure that your IT, your organization is actually, I mean, recognized internationally. You know, sometimes when you are going for businesses within Africa or outside Africa, if you are not certified to some of these international standards, they don't look to you. So once they know that, okay, you're ISO certified, then they know that you are following some standardized processes and ensuring quality, you know, all the things that the standards comes with, so that you basically gain an advantage over, you know, clients who are not really certified to the standard. So for those excited about, you know, getting into ISO 20001, this is the process. First of all, you have to define and approve a scope, and then basically do business plan, project plan, backup. I mean, get approval, evaluate the current practices, you know, compare to what the standard requires, and then will result in what we call the gap analysis. Once you do the gap analysis, you know what you are currently doing right, you know what you are not doing, and then what you need to do to make sure that you are covering all the requirements of the standard. Once you are done, then you basically put the action into, you elaborate on the action plan, you train the teams. This is very key, because the standard even forces you to make sure that your staff and whoever is interacting with the service management system is actually competent. And then competent means that you've been you've gone through the proper training to ensure that you are competent. And then you basically define and then implement the system. And in implementing the systems, you basically put down all the policies and procedures, SOPs that you need to put in place. And then this goes through an internal audit. And it's advisable that you do some external audits or some mock audits to ensure that you're actually ready for the final external audit. Once you do that, then you can invite your external auditor. They come and look at your processes, whether it satisfies all the requirements of the standard. Then they can recommend you for, you know, ISO 20000 certification. So this really a snapshot. It's not really difficult to do if you put your mind to it. I think we did this in a space of less than 3 months. So this can be done by anyone. So how do we actually improve? What are some of the actionable advice that I have for, you know, effective IT service management? So the key thing is to ensure that there is leadership commitment, because when there's no leadership commitment, the project will definitely fail. You won't get all the resources and support you need to actually implement it. And then the participation at all levels. So the training is to cover all the people in the organization. They need to be aware of all the policies that they need to be aware of, so that they can also support the project. Correct training, education, awareness is quite key for people to actually adopt. And then there also needs to be a clear governance structure defined. So the standard actually even forces you to define roles and responsibilities, but this is very key, making sure that there are no gaps in terms of, making sure that your management system is actually working. And then for continuous improvement, this is very key. So there needs to be a regular review to enhance these IT processes. So one way of doing these reviews is certainly doing this customer surveys, feedback from customers. So this is very effective. You do something, you out there, and then based on the feedback that you get, you constantly improving on it. And then one key thing is also to ensure that you integrate ISO 20001 with other frameworks like ITIL, like I spoke earlier. The 20,000 will just give you what you need to do. When it actually comes to doing it, you need ITIL to fit in those processes. So the way to improve our IT service management is to leverage on automation and tools. This is quite key because, if you want it to be done consistently, automation is quite any risk of human as much as possible, and then use tools like ITSM tools. So these tools basically, proper ITSM tool would have all the models that you need for proper IT service management. So you have tools for incident management, problem management, service desk activities, project management, all these key areas that you need to do. Project reactions and normally, when you don't have some of these systems in place, you are not able to prioritize or to standardize the way things are done. So maybe there might be multiple reports about an incident that has happened, and one day the problem is solved very well, another day people solve all these processes because in it you embedded knowledge management, which will help junior people to actually, okay, if you have this issue, that's how you solve it, etc. So how can there be improvement without establishing clear KPI? So this is quite key to establish output. You can and measure what is being done. So satisfaction scores, they basically tell you whether you are doing well or not doing well. So if tickets are coming and they are exceeded that you set out, or the benchmark metrics that you set out for them, then you're able to identify them quickly and then basically use it to improve. So one other key area is effective audit. Audit is so important for improvement because good internal auditor, you always be you not improve basically, because the auditor, since we've implemented ISO 200, every year I learn new things because every auditor what they look at and what they find. So you use this to continuously improve. So the basis of audit is to basically improve what is already in place. So a good internal audit is quite key if we want to improve IT service management practice. So in short, I'll leave you with this quote by Stuart Rance, saying that IT
Thank you so much for that introduction. So I'm going to continue from where my colleagues have ended. So basically, I'm going to talk on ISO 45001, ensuring health and safety in the workplace. So my colleagues have already spoken about quality management system, business continuity management system, and the rest. So basically, I'm taking you into occupational health and safety. Now, I'll be talking about the size of the problem. So basically, what is the challenge when it comes to occupational health and safety with regards to most employers and also employees? I'll also be talking about the history of occupational health and safety management system. So from how it started in 1953 till date. And also I'll take you through the cost of accidents at the workplace. So when accidents the organization would face when it happens. I'll be talking about the advantages of as a management system. I'll run you through, why the 45,001 is important to Ghanaian businesses and also Africa as a whole. I also take you through the economic advantages of ISO 45001 certification. Then I'll walk you through the structure of ISO 5001. So trying to most companies within the Ghanaian landscape and how most businesses are being recognized internationally. So generally, from statistics obtained from the International Labour Organization, there are about 270 million accidents and also 160 million diseases, occurring every year due to work. So basically, you have people working, and from the statistics, every year we are recording about 270 million accidents. That's quite a lot. So maybe some people are dying, some people are having permanent disabilities, some people are having temporary disability, some people are also experiencing first aid cases or minor injuries, major injuries, and all that. So this is quite a huge number, and this calls for concern. In addition to that, there's about 160 million occupational related diseases. Okay, so some people are getting those cases, due to the nature of their work. Some also developing severe damage and also severe internal diseases, which are all coming from the occupations that they are into. Can we go back to the slide, please? The previous one. And also, out of this number of cases, there are 2 million fatalities a year. So out of the 270 million accidents that are recorded, globally, due to occupation-related work, and also the 160 million diseases that are recorded, we have 2 million fatalities a year. So you can just imagine these numbers are quite alarming. So you would actually prepare for work, you go to work, sometimes you don't return back home. So every year we're recording 2 million fatalities. And out of these 2 million fatalities, there is about 4% global GDP lost. So it means in terms of economic activities within companies or within economic activities within countries, there's globally, an annual shortage of 4%. So that's also affecting the gross domestic product of countries. Now, when you zone it down, it's about 355,000 on-the-job fatalities each year. So it's directly linked to people actually carrying out work. Now this actually called for the implementation or called for the development of an international standard which would help prevent work-related accidents or incidents and also prevent occupational diseases. So I'll take you the history of the health and safety management system standard. So next slide, please. So it started in 1953. So in 1953, there are a lot of calls and agitations for workers' rights. So a lot of companies, were being closed down because workers were actually, calling for protection in terms of health and safety. They were also making calls for equal rights, across various companies, because most companies were not, taking into consideration the health and safety of their workers. And so, there were a lot of agitation across Europe and America, and actually to engage with labor unions to develop what we call the International Labor Conventions and Recommendations. So that was the first, document that actually sought to, create room for, worker protection and also worker safety. So within that convention, they actually put in place certain measures to be implemented across Europe and across America for workers. Okay, so to ensure that they do not, encounter adverse situations at work. Now, that convention was being used from 1953 till 1977. So the British Standards Institute in 1996 upgraded that convention and recommendation and actually formulated it into a standard. So we had the BS 8800, which was being implemented across Europe, and that was actually a compliance document, which actually contained key requirements for employers to be compliant to ensure that their workers were being protected, and also health and safety was being prioritized at the workplace. So within that period, 1996, it was mandatory for companies within Europe or within Britain or England to actually carry out a basic health and safety risk assessment and also put in place controls to prevent, accidents and also incidents at the workplace. Now, Spain also took that and upgraded it to the UNE 81900, which was actually being implemented in Spain. So among the rest, they were actually focusing on conventions. Now, Britain had upgraded, Spain upgraded. So it actually forced, the ISO, because ISO was formed in 1947. It actually pushed ISO to come out with a unified standard. Okay, a unified standard which could be adopted by all countries. So in 1999 to 2001, ISO actually issued their first edition, which is called the OSHA's 18001 Occupational Health and Safety Assessment Series, which actually contained minimum requirements, to ensure health and safety is being prioritized at the workplace, and also to ensure that the number of accidents and incidents recorded globally actually is being reduced. So this standard was being, used within 1999 to 2001. Now, in 2005, the Americans actually upgraded the OSHA's 18001 by introducing the ANSI Z10, which is the American National Institute standard. And basically, what they did was to incorporate occupational hygiene began consultations, on the OSHA 18001, which was actually released or issued in 1999. So in 2007, we had the first draft, which was actually being voted upon. And in 2008, there were key revisions to that standard. And finally, in 2013, OSHA's 18001 had evolved to become ISO 45001 because we needed to include certain aspects on risk-based thinking and also on risk management into the standard, and also incorporate the PDCA model into the standard. So in 2013, we had the draft ISO 45001 ready, which was being reviewed by experts. And in 2018, ISO 45001 was finally published. So this is the history with regards to, health and safety management system standard. So currently, the highest standard when it comes to occupational health and safety is ISO 45001. So I'll take you through the cost of accidents at the workplace. So basically, preparing for a management system implementation should actually take you about 20% of your revenue. Okay, when you look at this or when you view this as an iceberg model, that's like the iceberg that sank the Titanic. So mostly key, people within management see health and safety as waste of money because they're going to invest 20% of their revenue or profit into making sure that you are screening people medically, you are providing adequate PPE, you are providing adequate safety system, you are providing all the necessary resources to prevent incident at the workplace. And so most people actually see that as a waste of resource or a waste of money because they are seeing the 20% investment into health and safety. However, the real issue occurs when there's an accident. Okay, so if they fail to invest the 20% into maintaining proactive health and safety management system, assuming an accident occurs, it's going to take about 80% of their profit or revenue. And you can just imagine you are left with 20. So instead of you to invest 20% into health and safety and achieve or protect your 80% revenue, you do not do that, then you have the unexpected occurring, then you have to now, spend 80% of your revenue or 80% of your income on accidents. So basically, this cost remain hidden. So for example, if there's an accident, you can just imagine the it is going to have on the company's reputation. That is inestimable. So the reputation of the company, it can have, legal issues. So there can be legal issues here and there, and that can even lead to a closure of the business or a close down of the business. You can also look at the cost that they're going to incur in investigating accidents. So you're going to spend a lot when it comes to investigating accident, and also when it comes to insurance. So you're going to pay for certain liabilities, and that can actually affect your revenue as a company. So the cost of accidents at the workplace, investing in health and safety management system cannot be overemphasized. So we normally advise that companies should spend 20%, investing in proactive health and safety management system by implementing key standards like ISO 45001 to help prevent accidents and incidents at the workplace or to help ensure or provide a safer working environment. Next slide, please. So what are some of the advantages of ISO 45001 as a management system standard? So in terms of management system standard, you are setting policies, okay? Out of the policy, you are creating objectives, and out of the objectives, you are creating your processes or procedures which are standardized, okay, and helping you to achieve those objectives. So one of the key advantages is that it helps improve health and safety performance. So for every organization, they keep statistics on, the health and safety performance. So the number of incidents that occurred within a period of time, the number of major, accidents, minor accidents or minor injuries, first aid cases, restricted work cases. So they try to keep statistical information or data on all these aspects. Now, this is supposed to help them improve organizations. Lessons that are going to be learned from those incidents when they occur, and also how they can, improve upon those controls or treatment measures that they will be rolling out. So it will help you to maintain a consistent health and safety performance. As I said earlier on, it's going to help you to reduce. So cost of accident can be so expensive, or cost of incident can be so expensive. So it helps you protect 10% of your revenue. Implement these health and safety management system. Also, it leads to increased employee confidence because they know that there is process safety in place or there is a proactive management system in place. So all aspects related to their health and safety is being catered for. Also, it leads to compliance. So in Ghana, where there's a gap, in 2003, there were calls for an Occupational Health and Safety Management System Act or Occupational Health and Safety Act, and that has been drafted and it has been forwarded to Parliament. Parliament is still deliberating on it, and they've not ratified it yet into a law. Now, we found out that some aspects of the health and safety were cutted. So we have some with the EPA, with their LIC 52, we have some with the factories inspectorate, and we have some also with the GSA. So these requirements, regulatory requirements are scattered. So we came together to propose the Health and Safety Act, as the Occupational Health and Safety Act, which within that document, we've made proposals that every organization must have a health and safety management system. At a minimum, you need to have a health and safety officer on site to make sure that the minimum safety requirements to protect workers are in place, and also to prevent accidents and incidents are in place. So some of these safety requirements include, putting together an emergency preparedness and response plan, having a robust fire safety system in place, training workers on health and safety requirements, and also ensuring that, workers' rights are respected, because there's consultation and participation when it comes to ISO 45001, because they are on the job working, and therefore you need to actually take feedback from them to improve upon your health and safety management system. So we are still pushing, and we're hoping that maybe the next government would actually consider that act and maybe rectify it. It also leads to improved productivity. So you can just imagine, if there's a lot of accident cases at the workplace, it means that there's going to be high staff turnover, or there's going to be loss in manpower, and that's going to affect the productivity of the work. It means that in terms of output, is going to reduce, because every now and then you are taking people to hospital for treatment. Some of them are being hospitalized, some of them are dying, and therefore it does not ensure business continuity. So these are some of the advantages of ISO 45001 as a management system. So now we're looking at why ISO 45001 is important to Ghanaian businesses, and also to Africa as a whole. So basically, when you implement ISO 45001, it ensures alignment with international standards. So as my colleagues have already stated, there are a lot of international standards, okay? And once you implement ISO 45001, it ensures harmonization. Whatever companies in maybe Europe or America or Asia implementing the systems, you would also have the same requirement in place, or you would have also implemented those same requirements. So it helps to ensure alignment, and also it's going to help ensure the credibility of Ghanaian businesses, because in most cases, I've sat on tender evaluation committees. Okay, so for example, Tullow Oil, ENI, Harlequin, Halliburton, British Petroleum, these companies want to engage Ghanaian on local companies because of the local content policy from the Petroleum Act. They are required to engage local businesses, perform some parts of the work. So as part of the subcontractor evaluation, one of the key components of that evaluation, or as part of the tendering process, is health and safety management system standards. So you would see that a lot of Ghanaian companies would, present forth their tender document, and what we normally see is that most of them do not have these certifications, especially ISO 45001, because at the end of the day, Tullow Oil, ENI, British Petroleum, and all these giants would like to reach their safety system with that of the local partner to ensure that there are no accidents or incidents. Okay, they also want to ensure that respecting human rights. Okay, they also want to ensure that labor concerns are taken, and also they are implementing international agreements. So these parts are normally missing from the Ghanaian block. And when you look at the tender evaluation, health and safety scores or gives you about 30%. So apart from your financial strength, okay, having good financial management systems in place, having a quality assurance or a quality management system in place, one of the key things that these international companies are looking out for is health and safety, because human life cannot be replaced. Once we lost a human life, that skill is gone forever, and we cannot replace that person. And there's a lot of liabilities, third-party liabilities that have to be paid. So they are a lot about 30%, okay, from experience when it comes to health and safety management system. Another important to Ghanaian business is that they help to differentiate such companies. So companies that are certified to this international standard helps them to attract, more businesses within the space. So basically, it can help to also ensure that you remain in business. It can help you to build upon your profitability as a business. And the most important part is that it helps to improve a culture of continuous improvement. Okay, that's the PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. So the safety bit of your management system becomes like a culture. So you do it right when nobody else is watching. So that at the end of the day, there would be no accident, there will be no incident. I was doing the work for Asanko Gold back in Ghana, and as part of their bonuses, if there is no accident, major accident within a time like a whole year, if there is no major accident, it means that they've been able to save 80% of their revenue, and therefore that revenue surplus is being shared. So they actually share 10% bonuses to all employees because they've been able to maintain a positive safety culture. Because if there was an accident, they had to expend, or they had to incur losses to be able to bring the system under control. So these are some of the key importance to Ghanaian businesses. We also zoom into the economic advantages of the 45,001 certification. So basically, from the economic point of view, it leads to cost reduction. So if you have this proactive safety system in place, it means that there's going to be lower insurance premiums to be paid. Okay. And in most cases, once you have the system in place, what we've seen is that you don't even get to pay these insurance premiums because the accident never gets to occur. And also it leads to reduced costs related to accidents and incidents. So it's just like maybe you're having your car and you've insured your car. Once your safety system is the engine block, you are doing good maintenance, it means that the risk of you having an accident actually being reduced. Okay. Now, those is market access. So in Ghana, like this, you are able to, once you're able to implement these systems, you have access to the global market, and it enhances your credibility as a business and opens doors to new opportunities and new partnerships. So you can have strategic partnerships with companies or major clients, within the European market or within the American market and Asian market. So once they see that you have this proactive system in place, it makes you credible and also opens these doors of opportunities for you as a business. And lastly, it also leads to investment attraction. So, more companies or companies that are certified actually attract or becomes appealing to investors. So if in terms of the business, you need recapitalization or you need some facility, to be pumped into the business or to expand your business across, the sub-region, most investors are looking at these systems. So once you have the health and safety management system in place, it means that you are in a competitive advantage position to receive or to attract more foreign direct investment from these, investors or from these partnering companies. Because already, once you have health and safety, you are driving in sustainability into the business. And now the attention is being drawn to sustainability. So before investors can invest, the World Bank is now looking at what we call the sustainable finance. So before investors can invest in companies or shareholders can recapitalize business at the global level, they're looking at what we call the sustainable finance. This money that they will pump into the company or they're going to, push into the company, is a company willing to engage in positive or proactive sustainability practices such as implementing an occupational health and safety management system? So that's like a question that investors would be asking. Great. So now I'm going to take you through the structure of ISO 45001. So in 2015, ISO introduced what we call the XL, which is a high-level structure to ensure integration of two or three management system standards. So when you pick any ISO standard, there are 10 clauses. Now, when it comes to the structure of the ISO 45001, clause 4, which starts with the requirement, talks about the context of the organization. So as an organization, you need to identify or determine the internal and external issues that are related to your health and safety management system. You also need to determine the needs and expectations of your interested parties. So interested parties could mean, stakeholders, which are mostly concerned about your business operation or the health and safety performance of your business operation. So one of the key stakeholders would be regulatory authorities and also your employees. So what are their needs and expectations when it comes to health and safety management system? Now, you move to clause 5, which is the center of the management system. Now, leadership is very critical when it comes to management system because leadership is responsible for driving policies of the management system. They are responsible for actually ensuring these management systems, are being implemented. So leadership forms a central part of the management system because they will be establishing the key policies, they'll be establishing the objectives, they'll also be providing resources, and also they would assign key responsibilities and authorities within the management system to ensure that this is actually being implemented. This system is also being improved upon. And also, when it comes to ISO 45001, there's a unique thing there. They've introduced the worker participation. So it's not just about leadership, driving the system. Worker participation or worker engagement or consultation also forms part of the central, of the center of the management system. So as a worker, you have the right, to make proposals with regards to the implementation of the management system. So once you determine that there's a need to implement safety measures or there's a need to carry out a risk assessment to any job that has been given to you, you have the absolute authority to propose and manage and also implement that. In some management system, what we call the stop work order or stop work policy. So if you're in a on and you feel that safety measures have not been taken into consideration, you can actually issue a stop work order and management have to do an investigation. And until all the safety requirements are provided, you will not be allowed to, progress with the work because you always say that safety first. Now, from clause 5, you move to clause 6. So clause 6 talks about planning. So in terms of planning, we are planning to take actions on risk and opportunities and also to identify hazards, and also to identify or to determine the risk associated with these hazards. So depending on the scope of the company or depending on the services of the company, you can adopt, there are several approaches to adopt. Now, for the oil and gas sector, they normally use what we call the HACCP, hazard operability studies. And sometimes they use what we call the FEMA, failure mode effect analysis. So what can go wrong? Because if something goes wrong on the rig, it means that the entire crew or the entire operational staff or technical staff working on the rig can lose their lives. So they use high planning systems such as the FEMA, that's the failure mode effect analysis, or the HACCP, hazard operability studies. We also have the HERA, which is the hazard identification risk assessment. So basically, it's about identifying the hazards associated with the work or associated with the service, and also carrying out a risk assessment using a structured approach. So basically, your risk assessment could be aligned to ISO 31000, which is like a guideline that contains how, or that gives you information on how a risk management system should be implemented. So right from risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation, risk control or treatment, dealing with your residual risk, setting your risk appetite, risk communication, and all that block. So that falls into planning. Then you also have to plan by writing out your policies on health and safety management system, developing your processes and procedures, work instructions. So everything should be standardized. So you should understand the key input into the process. You should understand the key activities and expected outputs and how you're going to monitor the process and also control the process and also gathering data from the process to ensure continual improvements. Now, from we move to clause 7 and clause 8. So clause 7 talks about support. Yes, every management system needs support. So support in terms of documentation, support in terms of manpower, support in terms of PPEs, support in terms of monetary aspects. So any kind of support that will be needed to drive the management system. Now we come to operational planning and control, which is clause 8. So basically, you need to implement what you've planned. So at the planning stage, you've actually, talk about your risk assessment, your hazard assessment result, the controls that you are proposing to implement, and also you've done all those aspects, or you've put together your HSC plan and all those policies and everything. Now, at the operational phase, you need to implement it. So it's not just about, coming out with fantastic policies, carrying out risk assessment and all those fantastic documents. You need to actually operationalize them, you need to implement them. And once you're implementing them, you need to control them as well. So that talks about the doing aspect of the standard. So you do what you've planned. Then we move to clause 9, which talks about performance evaluation. It's always good to check to see if you're moving according to the plan. So in performance evaluation, you could be probably carrying out monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation to know your performance. And you can also carry out internal audits. Okay, so to check the continuing suitability or to check if I'm actually meeting the requirement of the standard. And it also gives you room to carry out corrective and also preventive actions. So when there is what we call a non-conformity, that's a deviation from the requirement of the standard, you are given the opportunity to do a root cause analysis and also to come out with a corrective action to prevent reoccurrence. So that's under performance evaluation. Then we said this standard is about management system, right? So there's an opportunity for you to also have a management review. So the management review, you set an agenda or input into the management review meeting. Then you discuss the performance of various aspects of the management system. So basically, it helps you to determine the continuing suitability and adequacy of the management system. Because over there can be changes in your management system in terms of the processes, there can be changes in terms of regulation, there can be changes in terms of resources or personnel. So within the management review, you are able to carry out a detailed, assessment of the various bits or the various parts of the management system and also come out with outputs. Now, the output is supposed to help you to improve upon your health and safety performance. Now, that takes us to clause 10. So clause 10 basically about improvement. So in this case, we're looking at continual improvement. So previously it was continuous improvement, but now ISO has changed and have now adapted what we call the continual improvement. So you need to be able to enhance the performance of your management system. So you should be able to set more ambitious targets in terms of health and safety, like maybe organizations such as Tallow Oil, ENI, and Co have like zero accidents within a quarter. So you can just imagine that's a very huge target. It means that no accidents within a quarter. Okay, so they're able to improve upon these performance, consistently. So this talks about the structure of the ISO 45001. Once you follow through this system, okay, so it goes in that cycle. As one of my colleagues said, it's an iterative process. You are able to get the intended outcome of the health and safety management system. That is one, to prevent accidents and incidents at the workplace, and also to promote or to provide a safer working environment. So in conclusion, I would say that ISO 45001 certification, okay, it's not just about compliance. It's about fostering a culture of safety that can drive business successes. So we don't want the situation whereby people would actually, become disabled or would actually die as a result of the work that they do. So ISO 45001 certification is about, promoting a positive safety culture, a behavioral-based system whereby people would work in accordance with the requirements of their own management systems to promote a safer working place. Okay, so also we are encouraging Ghanaian businesses to pursue ISO 45001. We've already discussed the importance or the advantages, from the economic point of view to businesses that have this certification. And also, this is going to help them to reduce risk within their businesses and also gain a competitive advantage. Thank you.
Standards and best practice, your partner in professional development.